keeping up with the latest in gadgets and gizmos is basically impossible. Today we will continue our conversation on some of our picks as the best gadgets and gizmos we could lay our hands on. In the studio,
yes,
Mr. Lair Dog himself.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
Good?
Good.
And of course we got producer extraordinaire,
Hello.
Jim Walsh. So
Yeah, I turned on the TV to see you last week. I couldn't find you until you sent me the clip.
Normally,
I was bumped a
You
little
got
bit,
bumped
you
for
guys.
poor old Patty Duke.
I
When Patty
did,
Duke
yes.
passed away, I think you
Yes.
got bumped for Patty.
normally I see you at the coffee shop, but I haven't seen you at the coffee shop, so I had to come here.
Yeah.
Had to
Well,
come here on the show.
I'm glad you could make it. So, yeah, I spent a few days over in New York on a
excuse
kind of a
Dun,
press
dun, dun, dun,
junket type of deal. So I was over there to help celebrate National Prom Day.
Oh,
Woo!
But while we were there, we got to little NBC time, and we were on the Elvis Duran show.
a little NBC time. Oh, excuse us. It's a little national time here for Mr. Marlowe.
Well,
Is Elvis still broadcasting from Secaucus?
yes.
Yes, he is still in Secaucus. Okay.
How did you know that?
Well, I used to know his boss, Steve Kingston. I don't know
Really?
if he's still there.
Wow.
But Steve and I worked together on a project many, many years ago. Steve bought a radio station,
Okay.
and he brought me in to be the morning man. I was there for 6 months, and then he sold it, and I got fired.
It worked out well. Good.
It worked out beautifully, yes.
Which is why you're here now, and that's why it worked out so well.
And that's
actually.
why I no longer live in West Virginia.
I know you have a show planned out here.
Yeah.
I thought about you last weekend because my Android tablet got the dreaded FBI virus, and I didn't think Android tablets could get that.
Oh my goodness.
I literally had to take it to a place, and the guy was like, "I've never seen an Android tablet get this."
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah, it was the ransom thing where
Yeah.
Must be a
they
new
want a
thing.
$100 iTunes gift card,
Right.
Or they're going to come arrest you.
Yes, yeah.
When was the last time the government wanted a $100 iTunes gift card? But I didn't think. I thought Androids were immune to that.
People think that, and they also think that iPhones are as well.
Because Jim was out one day, and I was working the board for
Right.
you, and I remember you saying that the topic of discussion that day was, if you get one of these viruses, don't open it and just turn your computer off.
Right.
Right, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Which is what I did.
Right.
And
didn't
it
help
stayed
you.
with
Yeah,
me.
Yeah, unfortunately, you were too far into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens to any device. It doesn't matter what it is. As
Man.
far as if it's got an operating system on it, it's susceptible to viruses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ding, dang,
It's crazy. Just don't hear about it as much.
Yeah.
So, but that will be as we move forward and more people are using mobile devices. Mobile devices will become the thing that people will try to attack.
Yeah.
Because we're just using more and more of it. So that's just how it is.
Nothing is ever safe.
Nothing, and I don't trust anything on there anymore. So I hate to say that when it comes to, but you get, and I'm not cynical about it. I love the internet, but if there's critical data and credit card information and everything else, even though I will go out and protect what I can, you just have to use a lot of common sense on there and know that there could be somebody monitoring what you're doing that you don't know about. So
Right.
if you don't want people to have access to your bank accounts, just don't use the internet to go in there.
Yeah.
If you're okay, if you like the convenience of it and you're willing to take the chance, then you just have to be prepared for the consequences. What I always tell people, if you want to do this, just change your password frequently.
Yeah.
I know it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it is.
But if you do it frequently, somebody breaks into your account, and then tomorrow you change your password again, they have no way to get back in there.
Yeah.
And generally there's they break into these accounts and they sell that information off. The Russian mob has got it or whatever, and they sell it to somebody. You guys are laughing. That's exactly how this works.
The Stoloshnaya gang.
yes.
Yes, it's
I
access.
didn't realize Russia had a mob.
In old Russia, mob has you, or whatever.
It is a thriving business
Yes, it
in
is.
Russia, and the FBI virus comes from the Russian mob. And they actually, and it's crazy, and all of these, I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of the times when you get a call that it's Microsoft's, that's on the phone to fix your computer or whatever, and they'll
Right.
charge you a couple $100, that's usually Russia's behind that somehow or another. Not the country, but the mob. They actually pay these people an hourly wage and benefits to scam you out of your money.
Jim, they're making more money than you and I.
They
Well,
are
that's
actually.
a pretty big club, though.
So it is kind of scary, when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry. So did you get it fixed then, or?
I did.
Okay.
And I had to put it in safe mode because I did some research on it. And in order to put the tablet in safe mode, you need like 3 hands. And because you have to hold the volume switch up and down and then the power switch, but it wouldn't go into safe mode.
Learn how to do it with your foot.
I tried. So eventually I had to take it to actually I took it to Verizon because it's
Sure.
And it baffled them.
Yeah,
Well, you
Verizon.
should take it here, and it was on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I would have called you because I did go to the coffee shop that you and I frequent.
Yes, yeah.
and I had my tablet. Oh,
Looking
Marlo,
for that free help, I tell you.
let me buy you a frozen coffee. And hey, look at this. Oh, look, it's the FBI virus. Well, what do you say?
Well, ding dang do.
I remember going through a grocery store. This was a few years ago, and a good friend that's a doctor, a good friend of mine that's a doctor, was visiting with, I'm guessing, somebody who is a client of his, and I'm sure they were talking about some health-related issue or whatever, right? And as I'm walking by, she's like, "Isn't that guy that works on the computers?" And he goes, "Well, yes, it is. I'll see you later."
Right.
And she comes chasing after me. I just thought it was hilarious that, my health is here, but my computer is higher than my, rank higher with this person than her health.
Well, I
So
haven't
that's
seen you
funny.
in a long time, so I'm glad you let me say hi. I don't want to derail your show because
Oh, no, this is fantastic.
I
So
know you-
I'm just curious now, when you just recently had some surgery.
Yes.
Did you notice any cool technology there?
No, they put me under.
Okay. I was just curious if you noticed anything while you were in the hospital. there, so.
No, well, everything is really done. Everything is done so easily these days because I kind of had reconstructive jaw surgery and I still have a mouth full of stitches. But this is something that used to, years ago, you were in the hospital for days.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, when I had a similar procedure done when I was a teenager.
Right.
And I had my jaw wired shut for like 6 weeks.
Right.
And I was in the hospital for over a week just recovering.
Well, this is something that they did in one afternoon.
Right.
And I told the surgeon several times, and I think he charged me $1,000 every time that I told him this. Because this was not covered on my insurance. I had to pay cash up front.
Gotcha.
Before you go under, you have your checkbook. No, you laugh. True story, though.
That's fantastic.
But I told my surgeon several times, I said, my career's in your hands. I know every patient wants a great outcome, but if this doesn't work, and I'll be at the coffee shop,
Right, right.
which is there's nothing wrong with that type of career. But what I do is I create theater of the mind. I sell things with my words, and if I can't talk. And I still have a hard time talking because I still have a mouth full of stitches.
Well, we're glad you're on the road to recovery here, Larry.
Yes.
So.
But if you have something soft to eat, I'm still eating non-solid foods for another month.
Baby food.
Yeah. After the break, everybody, we'll continue our conversation, hopefully with Larry and Jim. Come on back.
Right now, 36.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek at Facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or TheTechRanch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank all of our listeners across the country and around the world who follow us on the Blueberry Network, on the Tech Podcast Network. We're on the Roku, iTunes, TuneIn, and of course our own app, Radio Pup. We're also streaming today on Meerkat. So if you want to hop on to Meerkat and look at everybody here, including Lair Dog.
I've
Since
become a
he's-
big fan of Roku.
Have you?
Yes. Yeah.
So are you using it quite a bit?
I'm using it quite a bit.
So why don't before we go any farther, why don't you tell everybody in your own words what a Roku is?
It actually replaced my cable. It's a device where I can see all of the shows so between Roku, I've got Netflix, and I also have the very basic cable. I have everything that I need.
Sure. So on your Roku,
Excellent.
which is spelled ROKU for those of you who are not
Right.
familiar with this, It's actually a device that hooks up to your internet.
Mm-hmm.
So an Internet of Things device or an IoT device that is not a computer.
Right.
I mean, basically. So you just hook it up to the internet, and then all of a sudden you can stream. They actually have over 2,000 channels, including my own called Zuvio.
I did not know that. Now,
Yeah.
I was introduced to this because I'm a big fan of Airbnb.
Yeah.
So about 3 years ago, I stayed at someone's home when I went to Sturgis, and they had Roku. And at the time, it just seemed like, because this was my first experience with this device, it just seems like I kept watching the same thing over and over and
I
over.
see.
And then the guy kind of explained it to me, and then I just really got fed up with cable bills.
Sure.
So I got Netflix, and somehow or another, I ended up with the Amazon Video Music Club.
Right.
Prime is what it's called.
Right.
So between that and Roku and Prime and Netflix, I have really everything, and I just have the very basic cable.
Right. I think that's what most people are starting to do now. Is they
because
they do that, so.
as a lot of people, there's an opinion for everything, but I like the idea of having local channels and local news. There's a lot. There's a lot of people that can do without that.
Yeah,
you know.
and actually, there's a movement on for Roku that they're starting to bring more and more of that in.
Yeah.
So it eventually, I think, will replace your cable box totally because you'll have all of the local stuff on.
And
there.
I think there's a lot of people like I feel. It really hurt me every month to write a check for close to $200 a month for cable.
And especially when you're only at, I think you live a kind of lifestyle like me where you're gone a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So to watch TV, especially on their time,
Right.
is difficult, because there might be a show that you like and, and I'm not one to DVR everything and all this other stuff. If something's on I want to watch, I just want to watch it. And that's what I like about the Roku.
I got to tell you, something I've never done before was binge watch TV. And when I had my surgery, I signed on to Netflix, and I've seen the entire episode, every season of the House of Cards.
Oh, yeah.
And now that I'm caught up, I'm up to date. I'm like, where's the next
That's
season?
right. That's right.
Where's the next season?
Where's Frank when we need him?
That is what drives me nuts about, I shouldn't say nuts, but what I love and what I hate about Netflix when they bring out a new season. They bring out the whole season at one time.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So when House of Cards comes out, I went home on Friday night after work, and I had my whole schedule, like, I got to get this done this weekend. And by Saturday at midnight, instead of doing everything else I was supposed to do, I watched the entire season of House of Cards.
Within about a week's time, I watched every season, and I was just engulfed with it. I'm sitting in bed eating my cotton candy because that's all I can eat. And you don't know how much you love popcorn. When you watch a movie, you want your popcorn.
Yeah.
So,
But of course, you can't do that right now.
but I did find
yes.
this little puff corn that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm eating that.
That's
also.
good.
But
I'll get my wife to whip up something for you.
That'd be. And your beautiful wife made those
Turnovers.
turnovers.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the week after my surgery, and I would actually peel a layer off. I would eat it layer by layer, but they were so good. I think I told you that, but they were so good. I mean, it was like bakery quality. Like you would go to a bakery and get this, but it was better because it was just awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you need some gumming tips from the geezer.
We'll have to get him
We'll
in
get him
here
in
one
here
of
in
these
a minute,
days.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. So, you're getting me kind of off topic
I'm
here, but that's okay.
sorry.
That's okay. That's
I didn't
okay.
mean that.
I love. I've never used Airbnb.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So, are you familiar with Airbnb?
Not at all.
Airbnb? Okay.
Not at all.
So, why don't you explain to us what Airbnb is? And this is a big deal. It's a huge website.
So you go to Airbnb, and what it is that there are folks in communities around the world that they have an extra bedroom or an extra couch, and they will rent it, and the rates are very, very reasonable. Plus, you're staying at someone's home, and if you're new to that area, you have someone that can tell you a fine place to dine, where to go eat, entertainment. But the thing is, is that every place that I've stayed at, the host is there to greet you, but they're not really imposing. At least my experience is that they really don't impose on your time. Your room is your room. Some places have outdoor entrance where, I mean, I've never seen the host. And
So how many places have you stayed at?
at least 12.
Okay, so
And then you sign up online and you pay online. So you have a credit card,
Yeah.
and then you pay Airbnb charges like a $40 service charge.
I don't think it's that much, but yes, they do charge.
It
a
sounds
service
like the hotel or accommodation version of Uber.
yes, that's
Yes,
kind of what
exactly.
it is.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah. So, if you have an extra room or if you have a guest house or
Right.
whatever, maybe you got a cabin on a lake that you don't use all the time, whatever, you can actually, as a property owner,
Right.
sign up to Airbnb and rent these places out.
Locally, there are, if I'm not mistaken, because just out of curiosity, I checked. But
I did this too, yeah.
Locally, I think there's 5 or 10 places.
There's not a lot.
Right.
I was kind of surprised by that. But if you get into the areas like Las Vegas or New York,
Right.
whatever, there are hundreds, if not thousands,
yeah.
of people that are doing
Every
that.
time
So-
I go to
so-
Sturgis, and I've already made my reservations for this August, but I always stay at a great place, and I've used it in Minneapolis. And the thing is that you get to connect with people that are locals, and you can say, man, I would love a great steak. Oh, you want a great steak? This is a good place
Right.
to go. If
Yeah.
you want to go ride your bike, if you want to rent a bike. So I'd love it. Now, I've heard some horror stories.
Sure.
But
But you hear horror stories about hotels too. So.
all of my experiences have
Yeah.
been excellent.
Wonderful.
Airbnb.
Yeah, Airbnb, check it out, everybody. Yeah, if you want.
But you're right. It's kind of like the Uber of the
Yeah.
hospitality
Yeah,
industry.
absolutely. So I had a technology weekend, and I was up flying my drone. I took the kids out, and that's right. I was up north of Mandan at Harmon Lake, and we did some nice coverage of that. We'll have to go out sometime, you guys, if
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. How far out of town were you? How far did you have to be?
Well, we were 8 miles out.
Okay,
you
that
know,
should be
so-
far enough.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you're the guy I need to talk to because, with the video project we have here at Town Square, we're thinking about buying a drone to do some video. But the ones that I've looked at, you don't get a lot of airtime. In other
Right.
words, you have like 15 minutes
Right.
and airtime.
And-
And the other thing is that I've spoke to people that have drones, and they say practice with a cheap model because you will crash
That's
it.
what I
Yeah.
always tell people too. So
Yeah.
because you don't want to crash a $1,500
Right,
model
right,
when you go
right.
first, right? So the other thing is that you have to be worried about is you'll have to get an FAA exemption to do this because you are monetizing, and I know that's a very loose term. When we're talking about this, but there have been cases where people put their videos on YouTube, and the FAA has gone after them because YouTube actually has commercials that run on the side or whatever. So anybody who's making any money on it, you're liable for. So they can actually come after you with that. So you just have to be careful about that.
Yeah, you got to get that express written consent of not
yeah,
of
so
Major
you-
League Baseball, but something.
Right, you have to go to the FAA and get an
Right.
exemption.
And I live
that
very
does take
close
a-
to the airport too, so that's an issue.
Right, of course, you got to be within or without out about 5 miles from the airport. Yeah. But we can talk about that sometime. I'm actually going to be filing for an exemption myself for a project that I'm working on too. This is a process. I mean, it's not something that you can do just overnight.
Yeah.
And
Well, I would think because of the nature of what you do for a living, you'd be able to get.
I'm
the
hoping that
exemption.
will be the case. Yeah. But you have to prove your case as to why you're unique or what you're going to be using it for. News would be one thing, and I would think that you'd have an opportunity to absolutely get that. So yeah, so I was out flying, and then also I have the new Amazon Echo.
Now, see, I would love to get that. I'd love
And that's our teaser going into the next segment here, because I can't tell you how cool the Amazon Echo is.
I'd love to get something that I can command.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this is. So after the break, everybody, we will talk about the Amazon Echo, and if you don't know what this is, you got to stay tuned because it's a very cool device. Come on back.
Right now, 36.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And Jim, it was good to have Larry in the studio.
Yeah, always a fun time with Mr. Lair Dog.
Yeah,
The
it's
Raging Cajun.
It's good to see him on the road to recovery.
Yeah.
So fun to have him back in here. So we were just talking about the Amazon Echo. So are you familiar with the Echo at all, Jim?
I've heard of it. I think you and I have talked about it once or twice.
So it's
But refresh my memory.
yeah, it's a cylinder device. It probably stands about 9 or 10 inches tall, I'm going to guess, and maybe a 5 to 6 inch circumference, and it's voice controlled.
Right.
So basically how it works is you say there's a couple of keywords that you can say, and you program this in advance. It's either Alexa or Echo or Amazon. So you start your conversation like that. So I'll go, Amazon, play some Phil Collins music. And then she'll respond and she'll go, shuffling Phil Collins. And the next thing you know, there's Phil Collins music. And it actually sounds pretty decent coming through. There's a built-in microphone or a built-in speaker system built into this thing. And it also has, I don't know the name of the type of microphones, but you can, if it's not loud enough, you say, Alexa, turn it up a little bit. And it'll go a little higher and whatever. So if you're jamming out on something, you would think that it would not be able to hear you. But I can talk in a normal tone to Alexa and or the Amazon Echo, even when the music is going like crazy. And I can say, Alexa, turn it off. And the next thing you know, the music is turned off.
I think of the Star Trek technology where the guy says, computer, do this, and the computer does it.
That is exactly right. And it would be fun that if you could program it to say, that you could just say computer and it would do this. So
computer.
So then you can ask it, as I'm working now, I'm starting to get used to having Alexa around me. So I was working on some, I forget what I was multiplying or whatever, and I'm just like, instead of pulling up the calculator, let's see if Alexa does this. So I said, Alexa, 365, because I was trying to figure out how many hours are in a year. So I just said 365 times 24, and just bang, just like that, she's telling me what the number was. And then I was curious. I said, Alexa, how many hours are in a year? So then she came back, and it was whatever the number was, dot whatever, because the actual year is 365 days plus. You know? So it was interesting that she has that. And then I asked her how far it was from here to Kansas City and to Las Vegas, and she would answer those. Then my grandson came down, and then the hilarity started because he's seeing Grandpa do these things, and he goes, Alexa, knock, knock. And she goes, who's there? So all of a sudden, he's having a conversation with her, going through all these knock-knock jokes. And then I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. So then I'm looking to see if there's like games, and there's a state capitals quiz. There's a spelling bee that you can put on there so your kids can participate in learning words. And I am actually extremely impressed. And the other thing is that it's functional. So I can say, Alexa, meeting with Jim Walsh this afternoon at 2:00.
Right.
And she will add it to my calendar. Just
beautiful.
Bang like this. So all of a sudden it's on my phone and on my computer. And I can ask her what's on my schedule for today. And she'll come right back and say, Tech Ranch at 11, meeting with Jim Walsh at 2.
Now, how is this different from Siri? Or is it really?
Well,
in a significant way?
Well, first of all, the music playing capability. It sounds so much better.
Really?
It's amazing.
Same concept, but it's just more advanced.
It's more advanced,
okay.
yeah, but
more versatile.
Yeah, and I even asked her that. I said, "What's the difference, or how do you feel about Siri?" And she goes, "Siri is a great app as well." So there was no animosity between the two devices. But it's something that it's always on. You don't have to turn Alexa on. She's just sitting there listening.
Is it the same voice?
Same voice all the time. Siri, you mean?
Yeah.
It is not the same voice.
Oh, okay.
So
not the same lady. We talked about that.
We do, in fact.
Had contact with the lady.
Seriously Susan is her Twitter handle, and she follows the Tech Ranch. As a matter of fact, we need to get her on the show one of these days.
Yeah, I've heard about her. She does a lot of seminars. She teaches.
does.
I met her once.
Okay.
She teaches seminars for voiceover, and people want to do voices on commercials or.
Wouldn't that be the gig to have? Right. You could introduce yourself, and you're like,
the gig I always
your voice is familiar to me.
I always wanted to be the movie guy, Don LaFontaine, the guy who goes, in a world where this happened,
that would be
the inner world guy.
Yes, yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, he passed away a couple of years ago. Now
Really?
they got guys who sound like him doing it.
Yeah, so I have to say, I'm so far very impressed with the Amazon Echo, and it's just under $200 for this device, and I actually think it's gonna save me a lot of time.
Beautiful.
Because I can, instead of just doing things like if I'm going to do it on my computer or whatever, I can just ask the question out loud, and in a voice that I can understand immediately, I get the answer back. So it's fantastic. It really is. And I'm sure as I use it more and more all the time, I'm going to find more uses for it. You can use it to control your lighting if you have internet connected lighting. There really is a ton of. You can order a pizza with it. So you go through. There's a bunch of apps. It's not unlike having a smartphone, like your smartphone now, right? There's a bunch of apps that you can add to this thing, and if you want to add the Domino's app to it, for example, you can do that, and you can just say order a cheese pizza from Domino's, or you can order your Uber car. With this thing. I mean,
or your Airbnb.
Yes, the Airbnb has an app for this. So you could say, find me a room in Las Vegas, and it'll find you a room in Las Vegas. So it's pretty amazing. And I think as it moves forward, it could be the next big platform. It really could be.
In a world where iPhones order pizza.
That's pretty cool.
I love that guy.
That's pretty cool. So, yeah, flying drones this weekend was kind of fun. And
so how you getting with your flying skills? Have you crashed it yet?
My new drone I have not crashed. So I took my own advice, and I've worked my way up to this.
Yeah.
So I crashed my cheaper ones many times.
Yeah.
But
that's why you get the cheap ones.
That's right. But what I have found is that even on Saturday when I was out flying this, is that we couldn't even put the cheap ones up in the air because it was pretty breezy outside.
Yes, it was.
This particular drone, I have the Phantom 3 by DJI.
Yeah.
And it handled it beautifully. It really did. And the footage that I got from it, I was out at Harmon Lake, and I didn't take it. I took it. So the first time I went out with it, you can set it to beginner mode, which only allows it to go 100 feet around you.
Right.
So if you approach that 100 feet, it just stops. Right now. So you can't let it get out of control. On Saturday, I actually put it in regular mode. But I was still apprehensive. I only took it a couple 100 feet in there. You can take it up to 400 feet legally.
Okay.
But 400 feet's a long ways when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up in the air, because then you're trying to watch the thing and trying to keep track of it. Fortunately, you get telemetry back to your phone or your smart device so that you can see what the camera is seeing and all that other stuff. Because if it wasn't for that, I could see people actually losing sight of it, because it was very sunny that day, and you got up in that sky, and it's basically white.
Yeah.
So it was difficult to see. But it was a lot of fun. And it's interesting, but I still tell people you got to take your time with it, and you got to learn it, because you could send your $1,500 craft into the brink, so to speak.
Yeah.
And never get it back again. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Bummer.
So yeah, and speaking of water, by the way, a couple of the other devices or gadgets that I've recently run into, and this one is called Deeper. I don't know if we've talked about Deeper or not.
Deeper?
Deeper. DEEPER. Deeper.
Like the ocean.
Yes.
It's deep and then it gets deeper.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
So this is basically a fish finder. But it can be used for a lot more things. But I got a picture of it right here, Jim.
Yeah.
What does it remind you of? That's the actual size, by the way.
That's the actual size.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those float things that some fishermen use.
It's a bobber.
A bobber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And looks like a bobber, and that's exactly how you use this.
Oh, okay.
You put it on your fishing line, you throw it out in the water, and it sends the telemetry back to your smartphone. So you can see the depth of what you're looking at out there. You can see what's in the water.
Right.
And instead of buying a fish finder that runs $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever they run, this runs $199.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And they're very, very popular. In fact, I did an interview with this guy at CES about, not 2016, but 2015. And he absolutely loves us, by the way, because he thinks we put him on the map.
Okay.
So, because we did an interview with him at CES, and that interview took off, and other people seen it, and now he's in Cabela's and on Walmart and everything else. So he's done very, very well for himself. So it's very, very cool. Very cool story. So let's see what else we got on my list today. Airbnb. Have you ever used Airbnb?
Have I used it? No.
Are you curious about it now?
I am very curious because there are cities I would like to visit where I would just as soon not have to stay at some hotel where you're
Sure.
going to shell out several $100s for basically for a bed.
I think the other thing that's interesting about it, and I would like to see rural America adapt Airbnb a little bit more, because there are a lot of, especially where we're at here in North Dakota, Jim, there's a lot of places that you and I probably travel to that do not have hotels in those towns. But there are people that would occasionally like to stay there for whatever reason, you know. So I think there are people in these towns that could actually make a couple extra dollars.
Yeah.
By putting their extra bedroom or, like I said, their guest house or lake cottage or whatever on Airbnb. And Airbnb takes care of all of it. They take care of the financial transaction
great.
and all of that. They just pay you the fee that you want. So if you want $50 for the night to stay in that room or whatever, that's what you get. You know, it's pretty cool.
Well, see, I have the opposite problem because in my travels, I tend to go to the bigger cities.
Okay.
And like I say, I don't want to be shelling out tons and tons of money, basically, when I just need a place to hang my hat during the night.
And you're right about, you know, like New York or LA or whatever,
yeah.
San Francisco.
I would think Vegas, too. I would think.
Well, Vegas is actually pretty reasonable to stay in the hotels. But, you know, and I get spoiled because I go to Vegas a lot for conventions and that type of thing. And I get used to spending $40 or $50 a night for a room at a regular hotel, a real nice hotel.
Yeah.
And then you go to New York and we're in Times Square. And, you know, we have a third of the room for 5 times the price, easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes 10 times that price, easy. You know, it's nothing to spend $400 or $500 a night downtown New York, of course.
Yeah.
So,
Manhattan.
yes, exactly. After the break, everybody, we will continue our conversation on the latest and greatest in gadgets and gizmos. So come on back.
Right now, 41 degrees.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. SuperTalk1270.com.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we're continuing our discussion on gadgets and gizmos. Producer extraordinaire Jim Walsh and myself, just kind of going through some of the cool things that we have discovered over the last few months or whatever. So one thing I haven't really talked about a lot, which actually won my pick at CES this year, and I'm going through my papers like crazy here now because I'm not prepared, of course. All right. It's called... I went one too far here. Or maybe I didn't go far enough.
You have the same issue I do.
I'm missing the one piece of paper that I need here. Isn't that hilarious?
Of course.
Oh, it's got to be here somewhere. But it's called Go Solar. It's a solar grill.
Okay.
And I'm just going to show you. You can see the picture on the bottom there, Jim.
The bottom there is solar. Yeah, it looks like a... kind of like a grill.
It is kind of like a grill.
And there's a little chute on the side where it looks like you put food in there and you stick it inside, stick it in the...
Yeah, they call it the tube.
In the broiler? Okay.
So in this thing, I mean, it reflects the sun into the tube.
All right.
And within that tube, you can put your steak, you can put your vegetables, you can boil, you can steam.
Yeah.
All this stuff in here. This thing gets to 550 degrees
Okay.
on a cloudy day. You don't even need to have direct sun for this thing to work. So
just daylight, basically.
Just daylight will make this thing work. So,
now, what kind of cooking does it do? Is it like a broiling or a barbecue or a bake or?
Yeah, I would say all the above. They actually have different attachments for all of these.
You have options, okay.
So, and I think you can control the temperature in there too. So if you want to slow roast something, you can figure out a way to do that. And then they've actually come up now with which is kind of fun. Or an interesting idea that you can connect like electricity to it or whatever, so that you can cook at night with it as well.
Yeah.
So you have that option, but on the higher price ones, but the regular price one, and they're not even that terribly expensive. They have a portable unit that's $200.
That's not bad.
This unit that you're talking about here, which is their granddaddy, is $550. I spent $800 or $900 on the last grill I bought. You know? So. And then you just don't even need to use any charcoal or anything anymore, propane or whatever. You can just cook with the sun. So it's pretty cool. They were my number one choice at CES, and the reason for it is that there's been a lot of solar cookers that have been around for years, homemade ones that you and I can make, right? But they've never had one that really, in my opinion, was a great commercial one. And what I see with this is the ability, especially in third world countries, They don't have the ability to cook food well or whatever. I think this is a game changer for combating disease and everything else that goes with that. So,
bingo, like E. coli and all that kind of
absolutely,
stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. So I really think that that's really going to be something. So go solar, everybody. Go check that out. If you want to buy a new grill, we're getting to grilling season here. That might be something that might interest you.
And
a
any
bit.
disease related to not properly preparing food
exactly
can be cut down,
cut
back on.
Yep, exactly right. So VoIP phones. Voice over Internet Protocol. There's been a lot of advancements in that realm. Many people around here who use the local cable company, for example, for their phone service now is actually a VoIP phone. Most people don't even realize that. It's not the traditional phone anymore. But you have choices. You have a ton of choices. One of them is called Ooma, O-O-M-A.
Ooma.
Yep. And
not Ms. Thurman.
No, Ooma, O-O. So,
O-O-M-A, not U-M-A.
Yeah. And we actually have an Ooma. Actually, I have two of them. I have the business model now and the home model. They run about $150. So it's a one-time fee, hooks up through the internet, and after that, your phone is free.
Yeah.
And you port your number over to it and the whole bit. If you want 911 service, then you have to pay the taxes on that. So I think locally it runs about $3 a month. So we pay the taxes to do that, so that if you pick up the phone, dial 911, you will have that response coming to you. But other than that, the phone is free, including your long distance in the country. So we have, we were going to get rid of our home line. We've had our home line for many, many years. My wife and I, we don't have a lot of phone calls that come in on it, but there are some people, especially people you don't talk to on a daily basis, but maybe some relatives that maybe in an old phone book somewhere or whatever still have our phone number. We figured it was important for us to keep that phone number.
Yeah.
And we were from an era where we had both cell phone and regular phones for many years. So anyway, but we got tired of paying the monthly bill on it, for no use basically. So we went to an Ooma, and it's amazing. And probably the biggest thing I like about Ooma is that all these telemarketers, you can report them, and then their number gets blacklisted. So if I report it, Jim, the phone, if they try to call you, it won't go through.
Wonderful.
So you have this like crowdsourcing of all these telemarketer and all the spammy stuff or whatever that's going on. And I absolutely love that feature of that. And the quality is amazing, just amazing. And you can do cool things with it. So if you have internet connected lights or Wi-Fi connected lights, for example, you could set it up so that your lights will blink when your phone rings. So let's say you're in a work environment that maybe is a little noisy in the back,
like a radio station.
Yeah, like a radio station. That light will blink, and then you just know you got a phone call coming in. So there's all kinds of cool things that you can do with it. So I really like Ooma. There's other things like Grasshopper and things like that are out there too that you can get phone numbers for. But the Ooma is, in my opinion, the best choice there is for VoIP systems right now. So go check that out when you get a chance.
Wonderful.
Solar. We were talking about solar a little bit. There's another one called Sunnybag, and I have a picture of it right here as well.
Which one?
The yellow one.
One up there.
So that's a bag that you carry.
Yeah, it looks like
in.
You would kind of sling it over your shoulder there.
That's correct, yeah. And it's got solar panels built into it. They're flexible. And it
kind of looks like a laptop with a shoulder harness.
That one actually, that's exactly what that one is designed for,
okay.
actually, is hauling a laptop around it. Now, they have ones with backpacks and that type of thing, too. All of these have a battery built into them, and then that solar pack charges that battery during the day, okay? And whenever you need to charge up your device, like your smartphone or whatever, you plug it into your backpack or your laptop bag, and it will charge it.
Excellent.
It's actually pretty cool, and I think we're going to start seeing more and more of these solar type of devices out there. So, and even in New York, they actually have these panels now where you can go up and just plug your phone in for free to charge it up.
Yeah.
Being charged by the sun. So
why is it just now all of a sudden all the solar stuff is coming out?
Really
I mean, we've been talking about it for decades now.
I think maybe the efficiencies of solar are getting good enough.
It's getting to where it's worth the investment.
Right, right. And
economics.
Right. And what's interesting in New York, and this is kind of a test thing, they're replacing these for charging. I don't even know what to call them, but your wireless device charging area. But they're the old phone
charging
booths.
Stations, or
yeah. They're the old phone booths.
Oh,
So they've taken the phone booths out and they're replacing them with these
because
these
nobody needs
charging
a phone
stations.
booth anymore.
That's right. So now you can go up there and they're utilizing that infrastructure so that you can go in and if you're sitting at the park bench next to it or whatever, you can just plug your phone in and charge it. So I thought it was clever, actually. So I thought it was pretty cool. Let's see. Smarty Pan is another one that I thought was interesting. I've seen this at CES. This is a pan, a skillet, a frying pan, okay, that you put on your stove, and it actually has Bluetooth back to your phone. So as you're measuring ingredients into the pan, it'll say, all right, you've got a half a cup of sugar in there, you got all the peppers you need in there now or whatever. So it'll actually tell you because there's like a scale built into this thing, it'll tell you that you've got the right ingredients at the right proper proportions.
Great.
In there. So I thought that was interesting as well. I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that. New Eyes. I'm going through this stuff pretty quick now since we spent so much time with Lair Dog earlier. New Eyes, Nueyes, New Eyes. They use what's called ODG glass. So if you're visually impaired, this is, and I interviewed these guys. I need to get this interview to you. It's absolutely fantastic. You say, New Eyes, make bigger. It's just they're kind of these funky looking glasses that you wear. And all of a sudden, it'll magnify what you're looking at.
Right.
And then if you need it bigger again, so if you're visually impaired, you just talk to your glasses. New Eyes make bigger.
Oh,
New
it's
eyes,
not just one.
No, it's like having binoculars on.
Yeah.
In a way,
and they're adjustable.
And they just adjust by voice.
Yeah.
New Eyes make smaller. New Eyes change color. So let's say you need, visually impaired. Sometimes contrast is a big deal. So you can go to black and white, or you can put the color blue in there, or whatever.
You can tweak it while you're wearing it.
You can tweak it. It's absolutely amazing. They're expensive. They're about $6,000 right now. But they'll
come down.
Here's the prototype right there. So I thought that was pretty cool as well.
This would be great to wear while you're driving, because if you like to make a turn and all of a sudden you find the sun's in your face, you can accommodate.
There's a lot, they talk about visually impaired people when you're using these, but I think there's a lot of applications for people who are not as well. So
motorcycles too. That's a big deal on a motorcycle. If you ever ride a bike, as I have, and all of a sudden you make that turn and the sun is bam right at you 7 times a day.
Right. Yeah, you could change it to a different
color. It'd be nice
color
to be able to tweak something on your face shield or your eyeglasses or whatever and accommodate for that.
Absolutely. Pipsqueak, I guess that's the last one we'll talk about here. The Pipsqueak is a phone for your kids. One of the things, and I see this a lot, parents are, we were in a church service yesterday, and the kids are always trying to grab the parent's phone because they want to play with it, right?
Yeah.
Well, Pipsqueak actually marries to the parent's phone, and the kids think they have their own phone then, but you don't have to buy a new plan or whatever because it's Bluetoothing over, so you can actually program it to have, dial 1 for mom and dad, dial 2 for the grandparents, whatever, and they have their own phone that they can go with. So
excellent.
Jim, pleasure as always.
Likewise,
it was a lot of fun today.
Yeah.
So, all right, have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.